Welcome back, team. Jeffrey David Hartford here. This is Coach's Corner. And Coach, for those of you that are new here, is an acronym I came up with. Stands for the Conduit of Optimism, Altruism, Consciousness, and Health. And it is with those topics that I try to bring you information that I believe can help you on your day-to-day basis. And like today, bring you a guest that I think can play a role with all those as well. So that brings us to today's guest, Dr. Lisa Vitale, friend of mine. I've had the privilege of meeting her in my office for massage. Definitely blessed in that regard, being able to meet a number of people in this place, but I haven't actually gone through yet myself to go see Dr. Lisa yet. And we were just chatting before I hit record, and I will be making it a point to get over and do that. So that being said, Dr. Lisa, welcome to the show. I really look forward to seeing what you have to bring to the guests today. And what I'll start with, I'll throw a question to you to get you started, is what got you into acupuncture?
Hi, Jeff. It's a pleasure to be here. So it's kind of a little bit of a story. It's a personal story. Um, my initial interest in acupuncture was peaked when I went to massage school. I went to the Swedish Institute in Manhattan back in 1992, and we had to learn acupressure.
Mhm.
So I had no idea what that was at the time, and I had to learn the philosophy behind oriental medicine. And I just found it so intriguing. And there was a spiritual aspect to it that was very attractive to me at the time. And I just, made a mental note that I might want to look further into that. And so a year later, I graduated, got licensed, started a massage practice, did a lot of shiatsu, which is acupressure, did some learning on my own, research and reading, and always was attracted to it and made it a mental note to go to school for that. But at the time, it was not a degree program. So you were going to school for 3 years and coming out with a certificate. And
Mm.
I felt that I wanted to wait for it to evolve, and which worked out great. So about 10 years later, I went back. And in the meantime, I had some personal experiences with acupuncture. One was myself. A year after graduating and working, doing massage therapy, I developed tendonitis in my elbows
Mhm.
and was very it was like they were on fire. I couldn't work. So I ended up going for acupuncture, which at the time was not easy to find. So I finally found somebody and went, and after one treatment I was like 95% better. So I was very impressed, and I went back for a couple follow-ups, and then fast forward, I had an incident with a dachshund that I had, a miniature dachshund.
Mhm.
He was paralyzed from a prolapsed disc in his back, and I was told he was inoperable, to put him down. And my regular vet said, take him to an acupuncturist. So I took him to a veterinary acupuncturist, and he recovered 6 weeks later without any explanation. He just started
Wow.
walking again after being paralyzed. So I really that sealed it for me. That's when I started doing my prerequisites and getting into the program. And by that time, it was a master's degree, and then I went on to do my doctorate a few years ago. And that's how I got into it.
That's amazing. I mean, that's quite the superhero origin story. You know,
Yeah.
that's really how it starts, right? We have some sort of adversity that hits, and we find our way to what it is that is our calling, right? I mean, that's wild to think. Veterinary too. I wouldn't have thought. I mean, I don't know why we wouldn't think that way. You know, I've even heard of veterinary chiropractors. There's all sorts of different approaches that similarly, from the standpoint, and we'll go down this path in a moment, but it's energy, right? When we have stagnant energy, good luck getting the body to recover.
Right.
All of a sudden you're getting that energy moving in one way or another, and the healing process can really take place,
Def-
right?
yes. Yes.
So I'll ask you this then, because I'm really intrigued by that with the dog. In your experience since then, do you feel you have a little more of an understanding of what it was? Because in some cases we can look at it and say, wow, that's miraculous. That's just a blessing from God. But the reality is there was something that happened there too. What in your experience now do you believe happened?
So, knowing what I know now, acupuncture prods your body, whether it's an animal or a person, to be well. And
Mm-hmm.
what that means is that it taps into the energy force in the body. As we know, cells are energy, correct?
Hmm.
So, the theory behind Oriental medicine is that everyone has these meridians or pathways in the body where the energy flows, and where there's disease or illness or pain, it's a blockage in that meridian flow. So with the animals, they can't speak. They just respond. Their bodies respond. So, the veterinarian was putting in points for the particular problem that this animal had in the particular area, and it opened up the energy flow, and that's in layman's terms, that's what happened.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And so the same thing with humans. I mean, what acupuncture at the basic level does is it reduces inflammation,
Hmm.
and it prods your body to heal itself. And that's what it does. It puts your nervous system into rest and digest mode.
Yeah,
Body can actually wake up, and it can access the parts of it that's miraculous. I mean, our bodies are miraculous. They can heal. We just have to let them do that.
absolutely. Almost get out of the way, right? Give it the right fuel, stop feeding it the garbage that we feed it, and give it that environment, right? I mean, that's why we account for the placebo,
Yes.
right? Double blind placebo controlled trial. That's the gold standard. Placebo alone accounts for 33% of recovering. Just the mind itself can recover. So when we give it some additional tools, as you're saying, like get those blocks out of the way, let the energy move properly, all of a sudden now we can heal. I mean, it's wild. It blows my mind that approaches like this are still considered an alternative treatment. And this should be the treatment. This should be what we do. And there's a large umbrella, right? It isn't just acupuncture. It isn't just massage. There's so many, but the alternative in the last resort should be pharmaceuticals,
Yes, I agree with
right?
that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we've heard it talked about a lot of times that the body has its inner pharmacy, but in order to tap into that, we need to give it the right fuel, give it the right food, give it some whole foods, give it the opportunity to actually go without food periodically, and time to rest and recover. Like you said, with the rest and digest, hitting that parasympathetic nervous system,
Yeah.
that's the key right there. We're walking around in that constant state of fight, flight, freeze, that sympathetic state, and we really just need to get ourselves that opportunity to recover. Which brings me to my next question is, I was thinking about it as you're talking about the dogs. The thing that came to my mind too is they're not busy overthinking it like we humans do, right? Especially in the Western society, we're so cerebral. We take such pride in being cerebral. We're in our head, but man, we overthink so much. We create these issues, the anxiety, the depression. I've heard it from an Eastern philosophy that we really have three minds: that in the head, in the brain, but also in the heart and in the gut.
Yes.
And in Western society, we just totally neglect the heart and the gut. And I have to tell you, with my experience through meditation and some opening some spiritual doors for myself, it's just been a total game changer. But that brings me to that question is, when people are in their head that much, do you find that it restricts them from receiving the treatment? Or does acupuncture still kind of work through that and it's going to work regardless?
It will still tap into their innate ability to heal. However, as we know, if they don't think they're going to heal, it's not that the acupuncture isn't effective or their
Yeah,
body isn't doing what it's supposed to do. It's them shutting it down. Uh,
sure.
but they can still get benefit. And
Yeah.
it takes a little longer maybe. And just on the while we're on the subject, I have so many patients that come in still, even now after practicing 20 years doing acupuncture, that they'll come back and I'll say, well, how did you feel after your treatment? Did you notice anything? Yeah, I felt better, but I don't know if it's just a coincidence, or I wasn't sure.
Yep.
Like, no, it's the treatment.
That's right. Well, and it's interesting. I mean, I understand that there's just so many people that just they're trained and programmed to believe that these things don't work. Without a drug, how can you get better,
Yeah.
right? So it's a tough one. That's part of those of us that are in quote unquote alternative medicine. That's part of the journey for us, is trying to convey that information to people in such a way that they can receive it, be open to it, And I guess at some point recognizing that not everybody will wind up being open to it. But to your point, they're still feeling some benefit, whether they're able to see it at the beginning or not. If they get that benefit from the treatment and then they don't see you for further treatment and down the road their symptoms are worse and worse and worse,
Right.
hopefully they get themselves back, they get another treatment, they see that, oh wow, it was the treatment. I feel significantly better and it was the treatment,
Yes.
right?
And it also just to get someone to relax is like half the battle. Have
Mm-hmm.
and de-stress, lay on the table for a half an hour, 45 minutes. Um, Regardless of what they're coming in for. I mean, that in itself is part of the treatment.
100%. Yeah, I've incorporated a lot of that into my massage practice is just teaching people how to do some diaphragmatic breathing and why we're doing it. I try to educate them on the difference between the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system and how just doing some breath work. It's amazing with literally one deep diaphragmatic breath, how as you exhale, you feel that tension in your neck dissipate. Anywhere in your body that you were feeling tension, feeling pain, you can feel a noticeable change just from one good deep breath. So then, if we can team that with multiple deep breaths over and over with that diaphragmatic breathing, with some massage or some acupuncture and some of these alternative approaches, we can really start to get people to see the real benefit there. Now, with that in mind, do you have a set protocol that you generally recommend for people in terms of frequency to see you, or is it based on their individual circumstances?
I like to see them weekly for 3 weeks in a row. If the problem is very acute and they want results faster, then I'll say come in 3 times within 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of maybe make things go a little faster. But in general, they'll see something after one visit. I don't want to disappoint them if they don't see something the first visit. So I always say, give me at least three, commit to three, and then we'll go from there. And if there's no change at all, it's usually because it's a structural problem that cannot be circumvented. Like, if somebody needs a hip replacement,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't get relief from the pain, it's because they need the hip replacement. But maybe they're not ready yet, and they just want to see if they can prolong the surgery. So something like that is a good example of why
Sure. Yeah, no, that makes total sense too. Now, in between, is there a protocol you try to give? I know with the massage, what I try to do is give as much homework as necessary. As I generally say, there's 168 hours in a week. Even if somebody saw me 7 days a week, which I would never recommend, that's for an hour at a time, that's still going to leave them 161 hours that they're alone,
right.
or at least not with me. So I want to make sure that I give them some usable protocols to be doing on their own for that self care. So is there something similar that you do as well?
Well, we do discuss a lot of things in the treatment. One being, what is their lifestyle? How much water they drink? Do they exercise? What's their diet like? What's their stress levels? So, it depends. I have to be a little bit careful what I say, because if I give them too much to do, they won't do anything.
Yes.
It gets overwhelming, understandably. So, I might just tell them, well, why don't you just start with trying to increase your water by get yourself one of those water bottles, carry it around with you, see how much you can drink in a day, and then try to increase it. Something like that. Yeah,
In,
exactly.
indeed.
um,
Brilliant.
or ask them, tell them to use ice. I might, suggest different exercises, nothing crazy, maybe walking or whatever it is, stretching, yoga. It depends on what they're coming in for.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, or different books to read. I do a lot of infertility. I treat a lot of infertility, and so there's so many different underlying causes of that. So there's a particular book I like to recommend for all my infertility patients to read, and that goes into diet and different supplements and, you know, what their specific problem is and what they can do on their own to support their journey. Um, yeah, so there is definitely a protocol in between, but it does vary by individual and what they're coming in for.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And each of those topics you touched upon too makes so much sense too. Hydration, nutrition, making sure they're getting restful sleep, taking care of their body, and as you said, what's their stress levels like? I think there's such a misunderstanding of stress that people think they're supposed to try to eliminate stress, and then they look at their life and recognize, well, that's not possible. So then they don't do anything. But the reality is, we're never going to eliminate stress. And the day we do, we're not even going to exist any longer, right?
Right.
Stress is actually keeping us alive. It's the body's stress response that helps us get over these things. But when we're in a chronic state of stress, when we're in that chronic sympathetic nervous response state, that's really where all the damage is coming from. 80% of disease stems from this chronic inflammation that's coming from a lot of that as well. So yeah, I love your approach, just trying to get them to look at the bigger picture and understand what they need to be doing. That yes, acupuncture can play a wonderful role, and getting some regular treatment is going to absolutely help. But there's a piece of the puzzle, and many, many pieces of the puzzle, that they need to be responsible for as well. You know.
Totally. Yeah.
Now, I read through your website and I noticed that you do talk about nutrition quite a bit. Is there anything specific that you've done nutrition wise? Is any certifications, or is it just something that you see has a lot of value to it?
It's not a certification. It was part of Chinese medicine.
Sure.
So I do come from that perspective, but I also had a very personal, just an interest in nutrition my whole life. And when I started a massage school, I was, doing my own studying. So a lot of it's just stuff that I've learned or that
Hmm.
I've practiced over the years, and there wasn't a course that I did have to take as a prerequisite for going into acupuncture college. And it was fascinating. It was a nutrition course. So it's always been an interest to me. So no, it's not like a formal education in nutrition, but it's just life experience and practice.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's one of those things, with or without an official credential, we can still be studying and learning and just coming up with information that we can convey to people that's going to help them,
Yeah,
set them up for some success. And that sometimes that makes it a little bit easier too, when that isn't our, specialty area, but it's an area that we know is that important. When we talk about it, we can build that value to something that we're not even necessarily, charging for example, right? But just
right.
highlight the value of it and get them to focus on that.
Yes.
Um, Now, you mentioned the massage. I know we have that in common. It Because of the toll that it took on you. Are you at a point now where you don't do any massage? Is it exclusive acupuncture, or do you still do some massage as well?
Exclusively acupuncture. I do medical
Okay.
cupping kind of in place of the muscle work. But I stopped. I tried to stop a long time ago, but it was hard. People, I had my regulars and they didn't want to stop. But I pretty much stopped completely when COVID hit because it was the time to do it because you couldn't even do much unless you
Yep.
were working under um, a medical practice. So, but I had massage therapists working in my office, and then that ended with COVID, and I have not been able to replace that. But it's working out fine.
Mhm.
Um, Value massage very much. It's a part of my life. I just don't do it anymore because it takes too much of my time, and I need that time to do the acupuncture,
Sure.
but also physically. I mean, I'm 50. I'm going to be 55 this year. So I really just couldn't do it anymore. A few years ago, I was leaving here with headaches, and people think it's your hands, but it's other things. It's, you're pushing your whole body. So physically, it was just too much for me. Um,
Sure.
so, yeah, so I'm not doing that anymore.
Okay. Yeah, there is a pretty, I'll say seamless in many ways, transition from one to the next. I mean, my path went from personal training and strength and conditioning into the massage, and that plays into my approach of massage as you've experienced, and being able to go from one to the next. And who knows? I mean, I'm 41 now. My body is still holding up well doing the massage as often as I do, but at some point in my career, I may be looking at that next transition as well. So we'll keep an eye on it.
Well, I think it's pretty significant. I think you've been practicing for a long time too, but
Yeah,
I do massage for 26 years. That's a long career doing.
absolutely.
So, you have another, what, 15, 20 years left?
Minimally. Well, I do generally say that I don't plan on retiring the way we
Right.
traditionally think of retiring. Doing what I do, having the education I have, and I challenge myself daily. I often say that I'm a lifelong student and teacher. So I
Yeah.
need to continue to learn. And as I continue to learn, I'll have more that I can continue to teach. And it's going to keep going. So even if at that point where I feel physically that I just want to cut back, I'll still do something in some capacity. I don't ever intend on stopping. This is my purpose, you
Yeah.
know?
It'll evolve just like it did for me. Like it'll evolve and you'll find, you'll still be from this background just like me, and you'll be evolving into other things that support your beliefs.
Absolutely. Yeah, and there's something to be said too that networking is such a vital tool. And I love even other massage therapists. I generally say that I don't give the same massage that the next person gives. I mean, my approach, I generally call it sports massage, but it's really, I don't know if you're familiar with Eric Dalton, his company's Freedom from Pain Institute. Absolutely love that.
Yeah, that's why I love your work. I first encountered it with a therapist in Florida who,
Hmm.
someone I knew from Newburgh many years ago. But we just saw each other in Florida. I was like, I think I know you. And then I went for a massage with her, and she does that method, and it's just phenomenal. I love it.
Yeah, it's awesome. And it made so much sense to me. Again, as my background as a trainer and as an athlete myself, his program, the MAT program, Myoskeletal Alignment Technique, it just made sense to me. It spoke to me, and it really it kind of streamlined much of what I was already doing and gave me that much more information to work with. So yeah, it was a great program, and I can't recommend Eric's program enough to people that are in massage and may want to take it to that next level.
I also think it may be better for the massage therapist, meaning the methods he teaches are easier on you as a
That's a
therapist.
That's a great point. Absolutely. And he's very big into the mechanics, which really that's the biggest thing. I think back, I think being an athlete first really helped me when I was in massage school, all the hours we put into clinic. And then, clinic hours for me I was okay. And I had some classmates that were struggling through it. So I got to give them some pointers as from my background as a trainer that really helped them out. I got along really well with many of them. And it's interesting how few of them are still practicing.
Yes.
It's really interesting to see. And I think you're onto something, that if we don't really emphasize the mechanics for our well being, there's only so much of us that we have left to give to help other people. And you're right, Eric's great in teaching those mechanics and different techniques that it aids in your longevity. You
Very.
know?
Yes.
So that's interesting. So with acupuncture, different story, right? You're not so much. It's not your body. You're getting the needles in place. It's more your knowledge, your understanding, your experience, and that really gives you a lot of longevity there. So is
Yeah.
that something you've put thought into in terms of how long you want to go for? I mean, you're very similar in that sense with me. Energetically, I feel it that you're much of a healer. You're there to help people. That you had to recognize that massage was taking its toll on your body and you had to make that pivot. But now with acupuncture, is that something you see yourself doing for a long time?
I could do acupuncture forever. First of all, I just love it. I'm really passionate about it. And it's not physically, doesn't take a toll on my body.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, I could do it. I hope to be doing it at least till 65, maybe more. I don't know. It depends on where I'm living because the licensing laws are different. But as far as I know, I'm going to be here for a long time.
Absolutely. Well, listen, especially with what we do for a living, right? I've actually got some videos out there where I talk about this. I think I might be selling myself short, but I've been saying for years that I expect to live to be at least 120. And that being the case, I got a long time to go. So same with you, 55, you're a baby still. We
Yeah,
got some time. So you,
yeah,
you, you keep doing what you do, keep taking care of yourself. And we've got some time to be able to help other people, right?
yes, yeah.
Absolutely. Well, listen, I know we are on a little bit of a time crunch today. I know you do have some places to be. I don't want to hold you for too long, but I do have a few more questions for you first. I want to share with the audience real quick. Thanks to my producer, we finally have the shop up and running on the website. So if you want to support the program, throw some business our way. I'm wearing one of the shirts right now. My shirts are very much about these positive messages. The word can't has been a dirty four-letter word to me for so very long. Back in my training days, I would tell people when I heard that, it got to a point where we had some fun with it. It was smiles, but there was a slight punishment. They had to do burpees, 15 burpees every time they said the C word, dirty C word. So my message here is, yes, you can. I want people to recognize that. So Shirts like this are available on the shop at jheartfitness.com, so go check that out. Where can people find you?
I'm located in Newburgh, on Route 52. It's called the Algonquin Plaza.
Okay.
The address is actually 190 South Plank Road, but anybody who knows this area, it's Route 52. Yeah.
Okay.
I
Awesome.
just renovated this space and moved in last October of 2021, and it's beautiful. I love it. It was my ultimate build out. This is where I'm going to be retiring from. I'm not leaving here for a long time, so um, come and see me.
Amen. Well, and hopefully too, I'll tell the audience here that I told Dr. Lisa that I really think she could do an incredible job having more of a social media presence, maybe a YouTube channel presence, and suggested she chat with Dizzy, my producer. So hopefully we can work something like that out, because I think you have a great message to get to people. And there's so many people that just have that thirst for knowledge, and they've always got their phone at their fingertips. And even
True.
just a couple of minutes a day, a couple of minutes a week, even of you just getting out some information to keep people in tune with what it is they need to do, how often they need to go see the acupuncturist, whether it's you if they're local and in the area, or wherever they may be, trying to get them going with that. And that will bring me to my next question is, for those that aren't in the area, or for those that maybe the timing doesn't work for them to be in as frequent as would really be beneficial, what would you say are the top three things that you'd recommend they do so that our listeners can leave today with some things to put into action?
In terms of acupuncture, in terms of what they do just for their health.
For their health, yeah, things that would benefit. As we said, acupuncture is really beneficial for the anti-inflammatory qualities and what it's going to do to allow the energy to move better through the body to induce that healing process. So for sure, ideally, they're going to be getting in for their acupuncture as well, but maybe top three things that you feel they could be implementing on their own.
Drink water, exercise, and take time out not to be stressed. Take some time out to do something relaxing or whatever that means for you that makes you happy.
Amen. I love it. And listen, so I'll say this to you, but I'll also say this to the audience. Today was a quick one. We had to get this first one in. I've been really looking forward to this, but I do believe we'll have you back on again. I think there's much more that we can go over. Audience, feel free. If you like this kind of content, be sure to follow, subscribe, depending on where you're listening. Subscribe, like, comment, share, all that good stuff I'm supposed to say so I don't get yelled at by my producer. That stuff that doesn't come natural to me, asking people to follow along. But I plan on continuing this for quite some time, and I plan on getting Dr. Lisa back on at some point really soon too. So,
I look
Dr.
forward.
Lisa, thanks so much.
You're welcome, Jeff. Have a good day.
Thanks. You too. Be well, audience. Until next time. Much love.